Sukha is not there. But illusion of Sukha is there. Maya Sukha is there. That is how the entire material world is running up and down, fruitive activities. Living entities are engaging in fruitive activities for that pleasure experience. So our Vaishnava Siddhanta never says there is no pleasure in this material world. This is another type of pleasure. Do you want that, or you want what you are entitled? And why it is called Maya Sukha? Because it is illusory pleasure, identified pleasure. It is not your pleasure. In the material world, to enjoy this Maya Sukha, you have to first identify yourself with a false ego. A false ahankara you have to have as an enjoyer. Just like if the Atma has to enjoy with opposite sex, then you have to identify first yourself with one sex, one gender. So first you have to adopt a false ego of a man, then you can enjoy a woman. If you want to enjoy a man, then you have to adopt a false ego of her. So you have to adopt a false ego is required for Maya Sukha. Whereas transcendental Sukha is direct pleasure of the soul. This is identified pleasure. Just like in a movie, you see you experience, when you watch a movie, you experience pleasure and pain. According to the plot of the movie, according to your identification with the characters, you experience Sukha and Dukkha. But that is identified Sukha and Dukkha, but experience is experience. You are having experience. You see people sitting in the movie and crying also. Nowadays people have become very hardened. But I remember in younger days, there used to be tent movies, in tent. And practically every woman comes out crying. They come out crying. I remember my mother crying. I said, why they are crying? Because, see, when you are a very small kid, you have not even learnt how to actually make a plot out of the movie. Your mind is not trained yet. You see something and all happening. Heroes coming, this picture coming, that picture coming. But as when you're a 3-year-old and all, you don't connect the pictures. So you're still figuring out. So why they are crying like this? That is identified Sukha Dukkha. Nothing is happening to their life, their real life. Similarly, in this material world, nothing is happening to my real life. My real life is where? With Krishna. The spiritual world. Nothing is happening to me. But I am crying, I am happy, happiness, Sukha, Dukkha, I am going through. Because you are identifying yourself with this character, this material body, and then experiencing the Sukha Dukkha of this material body, material bodily relationship, material society, all these things we are getting completely entangled in this Maya Sukha. So just see, the pleasure experience may be there in this material world, but what are the differentiators? It is not your own pleasure, number one. It is not direct pleasure. You are only a kshetrajna. That means you are only a watcher of the movie. You are not the enacting in the movie. You are taking a role from another plane of existence, consciousness, into the material world and identifying with it and giving decisions. You are playing the game in this material world, role-playing the game in this material world. So the Maya Sukha, even though there is experience of Sukha, iron-like Sukha, not gold-like Sukha, iron-like Sukha, and that iron-like Sukha is binding, it binds you more. So the pleasures are, in the material world there are pleasures, in the spiritual world there are pleasures. In the material world the pleasures bind you and they are low quality. How will you know it is low quality? Only if you taste high quality. Is it not? If you are going on telling yourself that there is no pleasure in this world, there is no pleasure in this world, you will go in chakkar, because you are always seeing there is pleasure. Then what am I experiencing? What am I experiencing? So there is pleasure. But it is illusory pleasure. Why in the material world pleasure is there? So that we know that there is pleasure. There exists real pleasure. There exists real pleasure. So you get an experience of pleasure here in the material world. But you see that pleasure is binding, that pleasure is transient, that pleasure is independent, that pleasure is entangling, that pleasure is low-class pleasure, lust pleasure, and love pleasure. That is the difference. Love is like gold, lust is like iron. So, by coming in touch with the spiritual master, Guru Krishna Kripa Pai, he becomes fortunate. Why he becomes fortunate? Because he gets the Bhakti Lata Bija. It's a Bija of transcendental Ananda, Bhakti Lata Bija. What does the spiritual master give us? The Bija of Bhakti. Bija of transcendental pleasure.